So, welcome everyone to this session. We're going to be talking about RDS, current technology, and mostly the future. So let's start with a quick introduction, introducing ourselves. Benny, you want to start?
Yeah, my name is Benny Trich, and I'm an independent consultant, and my biggest customer right now is Logix. So they had asked me to help them to get established in the German-speaking market. But this is only a part-time job as of now, and the rest of my time I'm doing other projects, primarily around benchmarking.
Yep. So my name is Pek Bessel. I'm an end-user computing consultant enthusiast. Primarily work for a company called Wortel, a system integrator based in the Netherlands. Also involved in RDS Gurus, Team RG, Rex Analytics, a lot of stuff as well.
Same here.
Same here. So. Yeah. So for today's session we were talking about the abstract, and we ended up with a lot of technology we wanted to show you today. That's because at that time we weren't really sure if all that technology would be available today. So fortunately a lot of stuff we have that running in our labs now. So the agenda is as follows.
Yeah, let's go to the agenda.
So this is stuff we ended up going to cover today. So we'll start by remote end-user benchmarking to take a look at some cool demos on that. We'll cover Project Honolulu, which is the latest server manager UI.
Has anybody heard about Project Honolulu? Whoa, who has installed it? Okay, good.
Good. We're going to do a live demo on that as well. And that will be our stepping...
Whoa, now you said it, live demo.
Yeah. Not So, and that will be our stepping stone into the rest of the demo, which is going to be around remote desktop modern infrastructure, or RDMI. So we'll see how Project Honolulu and RDMI are related. And we're going to do a live demo as well on RDMI and HTML5. So Microsoft is coming out with an Html5 client for RDMI. So we'll see that live in action, hopefully. So we'll start by the end-user experience benchmarking.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah, that's the first thing that we're going to do. And we, like Fred pointed out, we were working in RDS Gurus together, and we were using a tool set that was developed under the brand of Rex Analytics. And Rex Analytics, and you have seen that before when I did benchmarking presentations, sometimes together with Frank, sometimes together with other people. When I did that kind of presentations, we used auto IT scripts that automate load sequences, and this is the very left side of things. Like we build an environment and we install those test sequences and we run those. And the thing is that we needed a tool set in order to trigger the test sequences, to initiate them, and at the same time collect telemetry data. So this is what we're using Rex Tracker for. This is a tool that has been developed within the under the umbrella of Rex Analytics. And the other thing is the analytics, the analyzing the results. So and you have seen that before. That's this 4UP player where we are able to play back videos. And we've extended this player massively over the last months, so that we can not only feed videos into the player, but we can also feed telemetry data into the player, so raw data, which makes it very powerful to analyze benchmarking results. And the thing that I will be talking about now is that Microsoft encouraged us to do some benchmarking, and that was an interesting situation for us, because in the past Microsoft had asked us sometimes to do some benchmarking for them, but it was like pro bono. Can you run that kind of test? And it took us a day or something, and we found out some results, and we shared the results with them, and we were able to use them for presentations. But this time it was very different, because they reached out and said, hey, you know, we don't have our test team anymore. Because after the ARA disaster, they there was a major reorg in the RDS team. And so they don't have a test team anymore. So the test team was moved to sort of a bigger test team that's responsible for like all the products in Microsoft. So they have a central test group now, and not one that is specifically assigned to the RDS team. But they have budget now. And that was very different to what it ever was before. And before the end of their fiscal year, they said, hey, can you run some tests because we still have some money? And we were like, are we talking real money? And they're, yeah, we can sort of hire you for like 2 months and you run tests for us. And we were like, yay! So we did these tests with RDS Guru. So we not only did the benchmarking test I'm presenting now, they also asked us to do some FSLogix benchmarking. And we were kind of running out of capacity when it comes to people who can run the tests. So I've asked Sascha Göckel from Device Trust if he can help me with the testing. So he came over to my lab because he lives literally in the next town, like 10 kilometers away, and so he helped me with that. So this is how we started working together in my lab. And the results that I show now were partially created by Sascha Göckel because I was running the FSLogix tests at the same time, because Microsoft had very hard deadlines until we needed to deliver things, because they wanted to have something in their hands before the end of the fiscal year in order to pay us for the work that we have, because they would not have the money after end of June, beginning of the second half of the year. Things start all over again at Microsoft because they start their new fiscal year in the third quarter. So this is why we built a test environment in the lab, and we have connected a standard client that I'm always using and a primary user. So the primary user is the one that is just using the infrastructure as fast as he can. And we also connected a WAN emulator in order to measure what the network bandwidth is, and also to configure if we wanted to simulate wide area networks. The other thing that we have in here is a data recorder, so we are recording screen. Oh, here's Sascha. So I just mentioned him. He was one of those who helped me collecting the data. And so we recorded that with a frame grabber and archived all the videos. And like I said, the Rex tracker, we had controlling scripts and controlling framework that helped us to start all the different activities, because you are starting the recording at the same time when you initiate the user session from the client that physically runs on the server in a VM or in an RDSH environment. And it's not so easy to synchronize those things. Sometimes we had to use 2 keyboards and press the button at the same time. But in order to automate everything, we had to create this Rex tracker framework. So we are constantly working on that one. And for other tests, we are using secondary users. We call them the noisy neighbors. For some of the tests, you want to add like 5 or 10 or 20 of those noisy neighbors because you want to see the effects it has on the primary user. So this is basically the methodology that we're using. And this is what the new Rex Analyzer, the 4-up video player on steroids looks like. And this is basically the end of this part of the presentation. Now we go right into the real environment, which is I have the data that we have collected, and I've pre-selected a couple of sequences that we put together in Rex Analyzer. So you see I have Rex Analyzer. If I zoom in, so you see these are the Rex Analyzer files. It's basically XML files that define which videos or which telemetry data sets I feed into the Rex Analyzer. And the first thing that I want to do, just to give me the option to see what it is, we want to run RDP10 against PC over IP. So Microsoft paid for that test. And at the beginning I was completely confused why they did that, because I thought they want us to just measure what the performance is of RDP. But then there was this head developer of the RDP team, and he said, no, we want to see how we perform when we compare our protocol to other protocols, because now our customers are asking us, hey, you have this NV series machine in Azure, and we can use PC over IP. Why would people use PC over IP? And I said, do you also want to be compared to other protocols like HDX, like Blast? He said, yeah, that's the next project that we want to do. And I said, do you really want to look bad? And his response was, actually, I don't really care if we look bad or if we look good. I want to know where we stand. Because he is somebody who came over, he's fairly new in the RDS team. He formerly was a developer in the Xbox team. And he's an expert in video streaming. And he joined the RDS team and he looked at the protocol and said, oh, there are some limitations. But he said, unfortunately, our higher-ups believe that we have the best protocol in the world. So I need to find out where we are really good and where we are not so good. Because I want to sort of present the results to our high-ups, because I want to have more budget for our developers. If we fall behind the other protocols, we get more budget. And I said, you want us to make you look bad so that you get more budget in the next fiscal year? He said, yep, that's basically what it is. Okay, so we did all the testing, and this is only like, well, a small number of these videos that we recorded, and they have access to the entire raw data. So, okay, this is when we run RDP10 against PC over IP using 2 megabit per second at because the network is constrained, but we have 10% packet loss, something where Citrix performs particularly well. And we see on the left side it's RDP, and on the right side it's PC over IP. And we clearly see how much better RDP performs. And that was the first thing that we noticed. Okay, as soon as you start putting PC over IP on a constrained network, it does not really perform so well. And you see those artifacts like stripes. And this is the nice thing about this tool. We can go back in time. Sometimes it crashes when we do that. Hey, it's still a work in progress, and it still needs to resync the videos. Okay. No, it doesn't. Let's go back. Here. So you see the artifacts on the right side of things. Now, like here, it's very interesting to see those things. And the good thing about this new Rex Analyzer is we can click on any of the videos and we just zoom in. So if we really want to see details, we can see it full screen. So that was the first thing that we've seen. Okay, it looks like RDP10 is performing much better when we have that kind of setup. Now, we change it to a LAN setup. So we can use all the performance that we want to use. So again, on the right side, we have PC over IP, and here it performs better than RDP, but if we take a look at the consumption, whoa, 70 megabit for one session. Amazing. If we do the same thing on the Microsoft side, oh, 9 megabit. Okay. So obviously what PC over IP does, it provides the feature or the functionality that Citrix calls lossless. So it's, well, visually lossless. And so it consumes a lot more bandwidth. But the videos are crystal clear, they are much better. So we asked the Teradici guys, what is the use case? And they said if there are video editors, like in Silicon Valley, we provide the resources for them to do the video editing from the cloud, like from Azure, and they use the NV series machine, and they have only like 5 milliseconds to connect to the data center, and they have 100 megabit pipe per user. Then this is the use case which it is designed for. To be honest with you, that's not the typical use case of my customers. But from then on, it made perfect sense because everything that we were seeing, it reflected it. And here you see that we are not only using the bandwidth, now we're feeding in some real telemetry data. And we collect it in CSV files, and the Rex Analyzer consumes the CSV files and renders the animation in real time. So it's not a video that's behind it. It does the telemetry data rendering in real time and correlates it to the video stream. So we can also do the fast forward with the slider, and all this telemetry data is following. And this makes it very interesting to analyze things. And what we found out here is when we have this high performance, high-end OpenGL application in the LAN, it takes PCRYP a lot longer to start with the rendering. So obviously to load all the graphical elements into memory takes much longer. After it managed to do that, it's really good, and the resource consumption is pretty much the same except for the GPU, and you can see that they are not able to take advantage of the GPU because we had an M60 in this machine because we wanted to simulate the NV series in Azure, and that uses an M60. That was a very clear thing that Microsoft was able to take more advantage with their protocol of the GPU than Teradici was. If you have the hardware accelerated PCRYP stuff, then it would have been better, but this is not available in Azure. And this is the reason why we did not use it for our test case. I mean, the Teradici guys recommended that we use their hardware on both ends, but this is not what we wanted to see because that's not what people typically use in the market. But this is the kind of information that we are gathering, and we did collect like 20 or 30 of these telemetry data points, and well, you can select those that you want to visualize. As of now, we can visualize up to 4 of them. Again, we can zoom in, zoom out, and go to the individual videos and just take a look at the individual video. And here we feed in the real video. This is why we need SSDs to do that, because these videos are like 100 megabit or more, a megabyte or more. We have some videos that are in the range of a gigabyte if we have this high-end full HD videos. But that gives you an impression of what we did there, and that was a very interesting learning experience, and it was very clear. We wrote a white paper about it. When do you want to use RDP10 and when do you want to use PCRYP? Very clearly I told you what the use case is. If you have such a use case that you want to use, well, that you have users with high-end graphics requirements or video editing, then, and you have all the bandwidth in the world and no latency to connect to the data center, then PCRYP is the protocol of choice. Like I said, the next thing is comparing it to HDX 3D Pro and to Blast, and giving the Microsoft guys what they want, something where they look really bad. Okay, then let's move on to the next topic, which is Honolulu. Let's go that here, that, that, that. And Project Honolulu is the next step, the next iteration in management experience for the admin. And who has ever used Server Manager to manage, well, as an administrator for a remoting environment that has more than 5 users? Anybody ever tried that? So if you tried that, you know that it's not a fun experience. It was never designed for that. So Microsoft decided they want to do it differently, because as of today they have like 30 different management consoles. If you want to manage like disk management, profile management, RDS management, all these things, there was a session at Ignite where they presented all the different management consoles that you need, and it's a range of 4 to 30. That's what they came up with. And so they said we need to change that. We need to, well, retire Server Manager and come up with something smarter. So the idea that they have is, okay, let's install something on our server and on one of the servers, and it behaves like a web server, but we are not using IIS. Well, good. Okay. No need to install IIS. It is like a standalone mini web server that they install, and if you install it on a server, you also establish a gateway so that others can connect. Okay, so that's a good idea. Let's take it from there. The user connects with a capable browser. A capable means HTML5. Well, I've installed that on my RDS Server 2016 machine, and I tried to start the console. What kind of browser do you have on a server? IE. Then when I clicked on the link, it said, no, you got to use a browser that fulfills the requirements, which is either Chrome or Edge. And I was like, seriously, Microsoft? You recommend I install Chrome before I'm able to use your new Server Manager tool? Yes, that is the thing. So if you have it established, you can connect to other servers and look at all the information. It only uses the standard ports. They have not to install any agent. It uses, I think, it uses WMI through the remote management capabilities. And there's another thing that they're using, PowerShell. PowerShell remoting. This is what they use. So they connect. And then you can just connect from any client. You can use your Windows 10 machine with an adequate browser installed.
It's probably SYN rather than WMI.
Probably, yeah, probably. And so it connects through HTTPS, so you need a cert. And, well, oh yeah, here it is. They say it's PowerShell or WMI over the Windows remote management. But I agree with you, most probably it's SYN rather than it is something else. So, instead of talking about, let me show you what it is, and this is real life. So, I have an environment here. If I look at it, it comes with a domain controller. I have my RDSH server, which has all the RDS roles installed. I have a Win 10 machine. I have my own little session in the background. Plus, I have another RDS server running at this moment. So let's see what it looks like when we look at the user interface. Like I said, I had to install Chrome. So this is what Project Honolulu looks like. When you connect, so you have to log in because it requires your credentials. It needs to know if you have the privileges to see all this information. Now, if I zoom in, you can see that this is the machine that I'm using right now. It's the local machine. It is online. I'm connected to it. I have another RDSH server, and I'm currently not connected to it. And here's my domain controller, and I'm connected to my domain controller. Now, let's click on it. And now you see, I zoom out, and you see that this is the overview. And this is the typical thing that you see in Server Manager, plus some additional information from Task Manager. So if you scroll down here, you see like what is the CPU load, what is the memory, the Ethernet connection of all the Ethernet cards that I have, and so on and so forth. But you see that there is much more. Like I can see the certificates that I've installed, and it looks familiar because it gets all that data on the fly. And I can take a look at the event log. And the interesting thing is that it tries to find out which applications are installed on this machine. And so it's still collecting all this information. That is a funny part. I don't want to pick on device trust, but this is what I found. There is a bug in the device trust thing because it says device trust. So But I've done the same for FSLogix because these are the things that I've installed on this machine. And I can take a look at sort of the admin messages, and I have a warning here. Now let me zoom out and click on the warning. What does it try to tell me? Oh, my license will expire. I have an NFR license, so it will expire in -1 day. So that is sort of the message that I get. Wow, this is good. So all that I would search in event log is just in here. And the good thing is, if I go up here, and the refresh is not always working as expected. So I can always search for stuff here. So I have many items here, and I can search for any of the details that are in here. Like, I want to see how many users are logged on. I can see it here if I look at the processes. So it shows me all the processes, but I know that a user called Benny should be logged in. So I can just type in the name of the user, and it filters on the fly. Very convenient. And you can plug in new components in here. The last thing that I want to show you before I hand it over to Freek, now I just click on my domain controller, and you see it's doing pretty much the same thing. It connects to my domain controller, it collects the exact information that I had from the local machine, and I can do that from any place in my environment now, because I only need to know where runs this HTML5 web server, which is the one that provides that kind of service. I connect to it, and it connects to all the others and collects the data from there in this very structured web interface. And like I said, there's a plugin mechanism so that you are able to extend it, and Microsoft provides an API and an SDK so that you're able to extend that, because this is what they want to do. In the past, it was MMC plugins. They want this thing to be pretty much the same. So it's not going to be MMC plugin, it's going to be a Honolulu plugin. Yes, Honolulu is not going to be the final name. It's Project Honolulu, so marketing will come up with something, well, awesome.
And manage it too.
Yeah.
System center.
Yeah, something like that. And like I said, I have it up and running here, so you can come and see it if you want to. And you can just download it. It's for free. I've just downloaded the November edition 2 days ago, installed it. It was able to update my existing environment. So it's not final yet. Release date, it's going to be in public. Technical preview, it's already. Release date, they were not sharing anything, but it's not going to be before the March 2018 update of the OS, this semi-annual cadence updates. So this is going to be the time when they update it. Okay, this is where I want to hand it over to Freek, because Freek is going to build on top of Honolulu. Yay! Yay! Yeah, we have kind of synced our messages. We've invested like 30 seconds. You like it?
Yeah.
So what's your thought about Honolulu? You like it?
It's great. Yeah.
So I think it's, well, if you were used to Server Manager, everything is better than Server Manager, to be honest with you. And so I'm happy. It still is not scalable, so depending on the resolution, it's not always what I would like it to be, but maybe they're gonna improve it. But I liked it that already all the events and everything from third-party applications are in there, so you can start browsing. So that gives you an idea where they are going. Okay.
Well, at least it beats, having 40 consoles to do all of your management. So this is an example. I'm not sure if you showed this just now, but this is an example of what it could look like for RDS going forward. So this is an external company that took the RDMI Preview 1 and was able to come up with this as sort of a plugin for Honolulu. So this could potentially be the new UI for RDMI in the future. So what is RDMI? Who has heard about it? A couple of people? Okay. So this is the diagram that sort of allows to explain what it is. So if you're looking at a traditional RDS deployment, you're looking at hosting VMs. On top of that, you install all these roles. So you have the RD Web Access, RD Gateway, RD Connection Broker role, and these are all virtual machines you need to install and manage and maintain, etc. And that is for IaaS models or hosted etc. So in case of RDMI, all of those infrastructure roles are going to be transformed into .NET services. So rather than standing up new virtual machines, you'll be able to purchase these roles directly from the Azure Marketplace. So you go to the Azure Marketplace and you simply say, I want a new connection broker, and I want you to scale it up until this maximum number. So that entire infrastructure is also based on Azure AD. So that means you can instantly leverage things like conditional access, MFA out of the box without having to set up MFA servers or doing MBS extensions for Azure MFA, etc. So you can leverage all the new stuff in Azure AD out of the box. That also means that all these infrastructure roles are now non-domain joined anymore. And that's a huge step from the traditional RDS environment where all these roles needed to be domain joined. And that results in a lot of discussions, especially for the RD Gateway role. I'm sure Benny, these discussions about the Gateway role being able to, or needing a domain joined server. So whether or not to place it in DMZ or open firewall ports, etc. That discussion is now gone because these roles are now domainless. So on the right hand side, you'll see all the tenants. So this is in fact multi-tenant as well. So that means that you, as an ISV, you can stand up a single RDMI deployment and provide access to applications and desktops coming from multiple domains and multiple Azure subscription as well. So there's no link between these RDMIs and the actual backend. In fact, you don't even need any inbound ports for these session host servers on the right-hand side as well. And that is because in the past, for the RD Gateway role, you would need RDP access from the gateway role to the session host server role. They removed that dependency. So what you'll do is you'll install an agent on these session host servers, and that agent has an outbound port to the RDMI environment. So there's actually 0 inbound ports for these session hosts or Windows 10 VMs. On the left-hand side, you see the clients. So obviously, since this is fully based on Azure AD, we have the traditional MSTSC client, which is great for Windows clients, but it does not communicate over Azure AD. It cannot authenticate against Azure AD. So they needed to come up with a new client, and I'll show you that as well later on, that supports Azure AD and has a single sign-on experience ultimately towards the infrastructure. And also the existing clients for iOS, macOS, Android, they will be updated with a capability to also authenticate against Azure AD to be able to leverage this RDMI platform as well. And they're adding HTML5 to this mix, so they will be shipping a Html5 client which is able to connect to this environment without having to install a client and using a modern browser, probably Chrome. Right. So this is this environment. So basically this is more secure because it's using Azure AD, it's using MFA and conditional access, things like that. And it's also cloud ready because these platform as a service things, they scale automatically with you. So you don't have to stand up new virtual machines and scale them down to save costs, etc. This is all going to scale automatically for you. And again, all clients, so RDMI ships with the clients available on the left-hand side. So speaking about the client, let's do a little quiz. Oh,
That's my keyboard.
So these are 2 possible RDMI clients. Quick show of hands, who thinks that the client on the left-hand side is the actual RDMI client? No one?
Nobody?
One?
Okay.
So I guess that the others think that the client on the right-hand side is it? Or you just don't know? What? This is the actual RDMI client. So who wants to guess what the client on the right-hand side is?
The remote app client?
I'm sorry?
Remote app client?
Ooh.
Azure remote app. So you can see that they, kind of use the same source code for this new client, and they admitted that 90% of that client is actually based on Azure remote app.
So zombies live forever.
Yeah. It still hasn't died yet. So, you know, it makes perfect sense because that client had already the capability to authenticate to Azure AD and allow for a web feed to work. So that is the new client going forward. So rather than talking about it more, let's just see some live demos.
Just notice we don't have any more slides, so the rest is all live demo. So may the demo gods be with us, because
Could possibly go wrong.
Alex always recommends that we don't demo live, but without the live demos,
So let's first cover the traditional model. So this is RDS running on top of Azure IaaS. So this is basically hosting virtual machines that are hosting these roles. Like, for example, I have the connection broker gateway roles, web access roles all here, including things like load balancers, SQL servers, backends, all of that. So you can you know, deploy this on Azure and even use things like ARM to automate that for you. You can see in this slide in just a minute. This deployment was built in 27 minutes earlier this week. So I used an ARM template that deploys an entire RDS environment in that time, including the deployment of RDS and publishing applications, etc. So although you can stand that up really quickly, you know, you end up with a lot of virtual machines you have to manage and maintain, and Windows updates and stuff like that. So that's the traditional model. So let's switch to RDMI. So I have a separate subscription here that has the RDMI stuff in it. So I will cover this part later on, but let's take a look at a resource group that has the RDMI stuff in it. So the first thing you'll notice is there are 0 virtual machines running in this resource group. So this is all based on Azure App Services, service plans, a SQL server, and a storage account, and that's it. So this is my entire RDS backend, multi-tenant, and auto-sizing out of the box. So if we take a look at one of these app services, we can also see what the sizing looks like. So here I have the option, for example, to scale up, and this allows me to select a different virtual machine type for this application. So, you know, by default it's S1, but I can select any type I want to get the best combination between performance and costs. That's not really interesting, but you can also select scale out, and scale out allows me to configure auto scaling for this role. So currently I have already configured that for this RD gateway role. So I added 2 rules here that say when the average CPU of all of my RD gateway servers grows beyond 80%, increase by 1 instance. And then there's another scale in rule that says if all of my RD gateway servers, you know, they drop below 25%, make sure we decrease by 1 instance, and that's it. So by configuring these 2 rules, we have auto scaling done. So we have that for all of these roles available. So this is just the RD gateway role, but I installed these auto sizes. You can install them for, you know, all of these broker, web access, and diagnostic roles as well. The diagnostic roles is a new one which is added to RDMI, which allows you to collect diagnostic information, telemetry data about the environment as well.
Right now, is there like any information on the time to scale?
On
the time to scale. How long does it take?
Yeah, because you can tell me 80, then you do, but if you take an hour
I'm not
versus
sure,
you take
I
a
haven't
minute.
timed it, but the deployment was like minutes.
Oh, the deployment, but what about the scalability?
I'm not sure, I haven't tested it, but it's a good question, yeah. Yeah.
So you mean that it not constantly goes up and down, like adds one and removes one, adds one, removes
Add
one?
another VM, you mean, yeah.
If I'm getting hammered all of a sudden for whatever reason,
How long does it take until it's up?
like the new instance is up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Benchmarking,
full
nice.
disclosure, I have not done any performance testing on this yet.
No.
I have that running for like the past 2 weeks. So this is all technical preview 1, like really, really early beta versions, but it's a good point, yeah. So these are just app services, and obviously in the back end you need a a setup where you actually host the session host servers. So in this case, I'm running that in the same Azure subscription, but it could be any Azure subscription, any other tenant that hosting these virtual machines. And as you can see in this case, I'm hosting 2 session host servers that are joined to the domain. But these domains are not connected to each other. So you might be wondering, how do I connect then those session host servers onto that RDMI deployment? We said that's going to be about installing an agent on those session host servers. So as you can see, this is my domain controller that hosts those 2.
Frank?
Do this session host service need to be in as well?
No,
No.
no. As long as it can access an outbound port to the RDMI, you're good. So there's 0 inbound ports.
It's outbound 443.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So in this case, it's a traditional domain controller with 2 session host servers. And this is that agent that will be available. So the setup for this is that you provide the URL for the RD Connection Broker servers, that's the public URI of your connection broker, and you paste in a registration token you can achieve from the RD Connection Broker. You hit next, and that is it. So that session host server has an outbound port to RDMI, registers itself with RDMI, and from that point on you can add that to app collections, start adding users, and start adding desktops.
So for the Citrix experts, just translate it to VDA. You install the VDA, but you also add the functionality of Cloud Connector into this VDA to be able to connect to the, just do through an outbound connection to the mothership.
Yep. So
While the mothership does not need to be in the same domain, this is the most important thing.
So to give you an example of what's possible with the Azure platform, since these are all traditional or standard Azure applications, we also have the same insights that are provided out of the box, like the CPU for all of these instances, whether or not you have enabled scaling for these instances, and the tiers that are running on. So you have all of that information inside the Azure portal, but just dragging and dropping these items in there, because this is all based on the applications within the Azure portal. So that's for the management, and obviously, since there's now no server manager console anymore, the next step will probably be that managing this environment in terms of adding users and adding new collections, stuff like that, will be added to RDMI. To Honolulu. So, and that's because RDMI is fully based on REST API and PowerShell. So to give you some examples, this is what it looks like for PowerShell right now. So for example, I could get a few get commands, and one of them fails. But here are, it's an early beta, but here are some examples of what's possible with PowerShell. So we can retrieve the users, the session host servers, the app pools that I created, etc. So again, fully PowerShell and REST API, and it's probably going to be integrated in Project Honolulu for UI management. So that's the server, or at least the backend part. Is there any questions about that before we go to the client?
Yeah.
Yep.
But what you showed in Project Honolulu in the beginning, that was something you coded with the user.
No, there's an external company that was asked by the product team to come up with a beta for that client.
Okay.
So they programmed that using the REST APIs that are
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very early implementation, and again, the RDS team outsourced that implementation to an external company.
All right, so let's take a look at that client. So I have that client running here, and it looks like Azure Mode app if you've seen it before. It allows you to add a new subscription. So what I basically do is I add the URL of my web access environment, and going forward in the future, you'll be able to add your email address here. It will do a DNS lookup and get the URL as well. So I hit next here. Hit subscribe, and it allowed me to provide my credentials. So let's get the credentials in. Password. And in this case, this user was enabled to use MFA as well. So I'm getting an MFA prompt on my phone now. I'm selecting approve. And it will go single sign-on on this client as well. So here, in a couple of seconds, here are my remote apps. You know, the traditional testing remote apps. This is not your traditional, application. Probably want to publish, but you know. So this is that client. So from here, I'm able to open new remote app applications. So it will create a 443 connection to the gateway servers, and then from there to session host servers to make that login.
So, it's very important to point out that the original authentication happens in the domain where the workers in Citrix speak live. And then the agents connect back to the backend infrastructure where the tenant needs to be registered. So the tenant this tenant configuration knows how many workers are out there. So as soon as the user is authenticated through the domain where the workers live, then it goes back to the backend. It does the load balancing and sends the user to the right machine according to load balancing and policy settings. And that makes it completely multi-tenant because you can add as many worker tenants with their resources as you want to. And Microsoft's ambition is to break it down to a minimum of 1 user per tenant. So which means that a freelancer is able to sort of host his own virtual desktop in such an environment at a very low cost because they are all using the same backend, which is multi-tenant from design. It was born in the cloud. So Microsoft took all the features, all the functionalities they had, and moved it to these app services for all the backend roles. And so they control it in such a way that it's multi-tenant. That is fascinating. It took them a year to build because we have learned about it about a year ago at the MVP Summit where they introduced the first ideas. And now we can see it in the technology preview. It's fascinating to see that coming together.
Yeah. So in the meantime, the remote app launched there. So thank you for filling that gap.
This is what it did in the back.
How long before a license this is included in something like Microsoft 365? It's got to be coming, right?
Yes,
You've got to get.
I asked the guys from Microsoft 365 at Ignite, and they said they want to provide a license for the Windows 10 desktop in their subscription. And this may be the thing that is responsible for licensing, for license control, because as of now you would need to install a license server for each tenant. And they want to remove that requirement that you need that last sort of service that requires a VM, and they only want to use the licensing mechanism that they use for Office 365 today, because if you go to the Office 365 portal, you see how many users are connected and what kind of resources they are using, and so they can say, okay, this user consumes an RDS cal, and that's included in Microsoft 365. That is their plan. They don't know how fast they can put it together because there are many legal aspects to it if that's possible. But that would be great.
Yeah. What I did say about that is that probably in the first GA release of RDMI, you will still need that traditional RD licensing server. And then from going to version 2 or 3, probably it will remove that.
I can see them including a Windows 10s license in that as well, right?
That's 10s is clearly one of those use cases because you cannot run Windows apps, well, traditional 32-bit Windows apps on 10s. But if you want to make it a corporate device, they are all legacy applications, and then you can host it that way. That is the plan. That is the master plan where it all comes together.
Question.
Sure.
So we've all been here before with remote app, nano server. How real is this? Is this happening? Or is it going to stay in preview mode for the next 4 years?
That is a good question. They've been working on it for a year now. They came to this point. I believe that now it's in private technology preview, so we have very exclusive access to the bits. It was on invitation only.
Yeah. I think the public preview will be launched in Q1 next year.
Exactly. So together with like the new release of Windows 10 and Windows Server, the semi-annual, that will be the technology preview for the world.
Yep.
And they're hoping they can release it, the version 1, with the fall release. So they keep the cadence. So it's a year from now, basically.
Okay.
So that's what their plans are. When you're talking to people, they will never confirm that because they can't. But this is sort of the idea that they have.
I'm seeing a lot of, even including Microsoft in some countries where they are, customers are enforcing to move to this like now. They're already starting planning moving to it because they think it's coming already in the start of the year, which is absolutely crazy.
What can I say? It's sales at Microsoft. Their commission is based on cloud revenue. Nothing else matters. Simple as that. If they sell customers an Exchange server on-prem, no commission. Only if they sell cloud. So, you know how sales is.
So just on that, at both Ignite and Inspire, I went looking for the on-prem Exchange team in the half a hall that Microsoft had taken up with all of their teams. No one there. Not a single person from on-prem Exchange.
Yeah.
But
Inside
I think it's quite
Inspire or Ignite.
important to help customers
Oh.
and say, hold. But there's a lot of customers who are really crazy right now.
I agree with you.
Because CIOs, they're like, cloud, 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 cloud. Let's just move it all. Let's web-base all applications and build on this. Move away from Citrix, do this.
Oh, that's
Absolutely, no fear.
We're trying to encourage Citrix to build on top of that.
Yeah, so global
be very
load balancing,
clear.
there's lots of ways that Citrix can build on top of this.
Yeah. That's what we're looking for, partnerships.
Yeah. I mean, Citrix, Parallels, MyCloud IT, WorkSpot, Frame, you name them. So these are the companies that they're looking at if they can extend their platform, because they regard themselves, Microsoft now regards themselves as a platform provider, and they encourage that ecosystem to build on top. And they even encourage us as APs to build little tools on top of that. So like OneGlass, for example, that's a very good example. So that's where a fairly small group starts building these things on top of such an architecture, because Microsoft cannot do it all, definitely not. They were never able to do it, and they're not able today.
So last thing,
Some colleagues of me went to Ignite and they came back. They were like, so you know the Windows 2016 GUI, forget that. Microsoft's not gonna go further with it. It's gonna be all core. How's that gonna be with?
No, that's not
RDS?
true. That's not true.
Okay.
Sure, they're gonna go core for backend services and Docker and everything, but no GUI application can be built on top of that. Docker is not capable of using a GPO and core.
Are you sure about this?
No. It's a backend. So you really need to differentiate between those applications that users are interacting with and those applications that are running in a backend. And those applications that have a GUI will still be based on Windows Server with a desktop and Windows 10, very clearly.
And they said it's all going to be Windows 10 and not remote desktop.
Well,
You can't say,
we
can't
cannot
talk about
comment on that, unfortunately.
And how do you see like the...
Stay tuned.
What about the story for existing RDS deployments?
Yeah.
In
Oh,
RDS customers?
The story is pretty much the same as it is with Citrix. When you migrate from 6.5 to 7.15, you just update the VDA. In this case, you install.
No, but what I mean is, as of now, 100% of RDS deployments are on premises.
Oh yeah.
So now the message, how do you tell the industry? You tell all your
Wait,
customers.
we are only talking about the back end.
Correct.
and also
The
like,
front end can still, so the workers can stay in your data center.
That's fine.
Yeah.
the backend too.
But you are now coming to every single customer and telling it's a rip and replace for every single on-premise service that you have, with the exception of the backend.
No, exactly the other way around.
Is, you know, we've
I
shown
have to
the,
move my gateways, my
No,
web
no.
access, everything to
can.
services.
that's not mandatory to run these components in Azure.
No, Ben.
What you can do is you can also download the MSIs and run these .NET
Perfect.
servers on-premise as well.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So
Okay, that's
also
the
all the
question.
backend we've shown you in Azure. but
Ideally, Azure Stack. This is what they want you to do. Ideally.
But you cannot run
Of course,
on-premise
yeah.
or AWS
Yeah.
or whatever.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay.
So last
Yeah, I agree with you. That would be too tough, too hard.
Oh yeah, of
Customers
course.
will not do it.
Yeah.
Hybrid is the new, well, mantra.
Yeah.
So last thing we want to show you is the HTML5 client as well. For that, I'll actually log on to the Office 365 portal with that same user account. So let me get the password. And again, I should be prompted for MFA. So I'm now logging on to the Office 365 portal. So up until now, nothing special. I'll just MFA for the Azure portal. But if we go to the application launcher, I as an admin have added a new link there for my user, which is called RDMI. And if that user now clicks that RDMI link, it gets reverted to the HTML5 client of RDMI. So it's prompting me not to use IE.
I.e.
And again, you know, the problem is here.
Yeah, it's so funny when Microsoft recommends that it runs better on Chrome or Firefox. The first time when I saw that, I was sitting in front of it like, you kidding? Where's the camera?
So this is an HTML5 client for RDMI as well. This is also going to be shipped back to traditional RDS. So if you're running RDS on premises or hosted, you can also install the HTML5 update on top of IIS and have this available as well. So if I click one of these apps here, it's not single sign-on yet, as a technical preview should be. So probably for credentials.
We had to ask for permission to demonstrate these things here, because you cannot download them. You have to be in the technical preview program that's on invitation only. So we got the permission from the Microsoft RDS team to demonstrate it here exclusively. And so we were really thankful that they allowed us to do that. That shows that the amount of trust that they give us, that they did not want to come here and present it themselves. They allowed us to do that kind of presentation.
Yeah.
So they are a lot cooler than they were in the past. So this Xbox thing, that really helped. So
So here we go. So here's that logon, and the remote app is now running within that browser. So
HTML5.
HTML5, yeah. So modern browser.
The videos with Scott that is on showing this, he shows it where it works, right? Because I'm a bit confused about this part.
Yeah. But they
It is
were
the
the
same
ones
sound.
that showed the very early bits at Ignite, but now we can download it and well, kind of find out if it works or if it doesn't. It's different if you see it at Ignite in a presentation,
Yeah.
or maybe a video that they recorded, or doing it live at E2E.
Yeah. So this is the RDMI edition, and I'll also show you the backported edition to 2016. So this is my RDS on IIS running here. So if I log on with my test credentials, I have configured it to redirect to the HTML5 page of RDS, hopefully. And there we go. And again, well, there's no audio. But here's that same thing. So again, in this case, I'm publishing a few apps and desktops, and I'm able to sign on to those as well. And those will launch in the same browser. Obviously, it's browsing with credentials. But it now opens up that app running in the same browser. And as you can see in this release, this is the latest release. I can also switch back to other collections as well. So for example, there's a full desktop coming from an partner collection here. That allows me to run these side by side.
That answers the question, can we run remote app and full desktop side by side? Now you can.
Yep.
That was a feature that was not available in Azure Remote App, for example.
Yep. So here's that that environment. So in this case I'm using.
Yep.
In this case I'm using remote apps in a single tab, and I can switch between these clients really quickly. Do things like full screen stuff like that. So that was the live demo.
It was the last slide. Click it. One more.
That was it. So
Just in time.